Hold on a minute. As some of you may know, it has been a long time since I uploaded anything to do with my layout, and the title doesn't quite match, so this whole previously on bit doesn't make any sense, right? So what gives? What's changed? Well, for one thing, it's no longer summer, and the other, well, there's been some updates. I'm a big fan of cataloging what I am doing, and obviously showing it to interested people, so it makes sense to do this kind of video again. It seems like the other video since the last update was more around operations on other layouts anyway, and not mine. So here we go again. I can't make any promises around how long the spurt of creativity will last, or any of those other commitments that might elevate this channel in some way. So what I can say is, I just hope we have a good time. Carry on, Mr. Editor. Before we begin, I'd like to take a moment to lay out the plans for this series and any other series I do for my personal updates. I'm calling this series On the Workbench, and this is just to show you guys what I'm doing in terms of upgrades, detailing, and any other task associated with some kind of workbench, like the one you can see here in the picture. I have at least one other series in planning for now, but the list is certainly not limited. It really just depends on what I can get done and what would fit within a reasonably sized video like this. I'll cover any new series in their own first introductory videos. Thanks for sticking around for that, but shall we stop wasting any more time and get into what has been going on here at the workbench? In this update, we're covering any workbench visits which took place between the last week of September and the middle week of October 2022. I'm starting with the second and third entries, as the first is a little special, so that can wait until the end. What we are looking at is the inside of one of two Athearn Blue Box GP9s. Both are classified as Santa Fe 8517 and 2057. Example in the bottom left-hand corner. I believe these arrived at the engine shed as part of a lot sale, so were reasonably priced at the time. As with any blue box, both were originally DC and nowhere near ready for DCC. As a precaution for any models going DCC, I'm getting into the habit of cleaning the drive and gearing first, reapplying some grease, and hardwiring before applying the DCC decoder. Hardwiring for me means discarding the brass strips and the bulb used for the headlight, isolating the motor from the frame, and adding a screw into the frame to act as an electrical connector, replacing the direct connection to the frame itself. For these engines, I am using a solder adapter with an NEM 8-pin plug, as seen in the bottom right. I'll put a link in the description for this one on eBay. As you can see, I'm making use of DuPont connectors. Using connectors is a personal preference, but I like to use them as it makes maintenance much easier if I can disconnect without having to resolder everything. The only thing I would say though is DuPont is still a little large, so there may be smaller alternatives available. When I have the connections for the motor and tracks hooked up, I then do a battery test. I learned this trick from a local hobby shop, but essentially it's just blanking the setup so it will run on DC and putting a 9-volt battery's terminal on the track, as I will demonstrate now. You may be able to see the jumpers on the plug. You'll see the source of these later in the video. They aren't strictly necessary. Standard blanking plugs in the form of looped 8-pin NEM plugs should work for the same purpose. Finally, just before the addition of the chip, I wired in some LEDs. These specifically are called 12-volt tower LEDs. They fit perfectly into the headlight holes with minimal adjustment. I'll put the link to my source in the description. Be warned, it is a UK supplier, so sorry anyone outside of the UK. Obviously, the LEDs were wired into 2-pong connectors as well, so I could easily detach the shell for maintenance. And that is it. For 8517, I used a GageMaster Silent High Power decoder. And for 2057, I used a Rails Connect High Power decoder. To me, they are both essentially the same, except the Rails Connect decoder needed more power than a 9-volt battery before it would run with both the LEDs and the motor. I would argue that is not a mark against the Rails Connect decoder. 2057 seemed to be older and in need of more TLC compared to 8517, so the jury is still out since I haven't went in 2057 yet. As of recording this update, I have bought at least one more anyway. Links for both decoders are also in the description. As a conclusion to this part of the update, let's watch 8517 running in on Zanesville. You can tell I'm looking forward to running both engines on the Essex belt lines at the Thamessiders Model Railroad Group. As a convenient transition to our next and final part of this update, did you spot this train? This is my El Capitan consist. What makes it special is the F3B unit that was a gift from my lovely wife. This is the other special upgrade I did, which I mentioned right at the start. It is an MTH model, so it's more recent compared to the blue boxes. Take this shot for example. The model was DCC ready, so plugging in the GageMaster decoder was extremely simple. I just happened to make things a little more difficult for myself by taking it apart and giving it the same maintenance regime as GP9s. It was also run in on Zanesville, hence the presence in the earlier footage, but more on that later. As well as the run-in, it also had a bit of a speed match, roughly demonstrated here. It is worth noting, at this point the engine hadn't been running yet, and I soon realized at around this moment. It still ran well. I'm very pleased with it. The only thing I'd do differently is install a different decoder. I used another high-powered decoder, and it has 6 functions. A bit of a waste on both the power and the function front, when a regular rated 2-function one would have been fine. I may go back and replace it. Time and effort will tell. That concludes our conversion updates. One last item before I go. Newest additions to the fleet. This is a 50-foot RAE Express Reefer car. It's made by Walthers and helps satisfy my recent fascination with the RAE Express agency. As you may have seen in earlier inventory videos, I have a lot of requirements for every inventoried kit to make them acceptable. I am pleased to say this only needed a couple of conversions. These days I do a precautionary oiling of the wheel bearings, but I am happy to report she is ready to roll and should be featured in the Thamessiders video very soon. I shall leave you there. I hinted at some footage of the F3 units and the El Capitan. Consider this previously unseen footage on Zanesville your outro and good night from me. Good night, take care, and keep railroading.